Hello and welcome back to Tech Talk by Heliocentrics. I'm John.
And I'm James.
And today we're going to talk to you a bit about some of the updates that we've been seeing in the Microsoft space and the wider industry as we normally do, and then show you a couple of new features in Copilot that we've been making use of over the last few weeks. So, first of all, Microsoft, following on from their announcement of partnering with Anthropic for Claude, which is, for anyone who doesn't remember, is a competitor to ChatGPT. And they signed a deal with Anthropic back in late September, October time. And they're continuing their rollout of the Claude models to try and make it much easier for producing Word and Excel and PowerPoint documents, I think, isn't it really? Yeah. And research. So they've released some more updates. And as I mentioned at the start of the year, if you want to use the Claude or Anthropic models, it is an opt-in in the UK. It is not enabled by default because of GDPR. But if you wish to make use of them, then speak to your administrator for your 365 and they can enable that in settings without too much difficulty.
Yeah, I think this just goes to show how fast things are moving in this space in terms of development and AI as well, because Microsoft only announced the collaboration on the 24th of September. I believe within a week, they had integrated Claude already into Copilot for that opt-in capabilities. And since then, they've just been continuing to build more. And it's only been a few months and we're now seeing full-blown agents powered by Claude in Copilot. So it really goes to show how fast things are moving.
And things are only going to speed up over the next year. We've been playing around with the newest models from Claude in a slightly different system for development. And the capabilities there are just amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing that come out into Copilot over the next year. Next, we just wanted to touch on Apple. So another company that's been lagging behind a bit on its AI journey. They have announced that they are partnering with Google to provide Siri, which I think we've spoken about before. But I read recently that Apple should be deploying the first test case of this within the next couple of months, which again is just another example of how quick these things are moving. Historically, that might have been a whole year or 2 years of development time. And now they're looking at moving really quickly, which I think they're going to have to do to keep up with Android.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this partnership works because, as we've said, Apple haven't really done a whole lot in the AI race over the last couple of years. They released Apple Intelligence, but it was not as well. It was a bit of a failure. I think everyone can agree. So they've now decided to actually partner with Google, use their models to power Siri. And it's going to be really interesting because obviously everyone uses their phones constantly. It's where a lot of information is stored. So seeing how they weave AI into the ways that people use their phones on a daily basis is going to be really exciting.
Well, it's what I started listening to on a podcast recently, and they were talking about how this move towards dependency on our technology has already started over the last 20 years, because how many people actually remember phone numbers anymore? I know the office and a couple of phone numbers, but I don't remember any others. Birthdays, no, just that rely on calendars, what's supposed to be there. And I think that transition towards offloading some of that cognitive and memory effort that we have to technology is just going to increase.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely really interesting to see how things change over the coming months and years. So next up, we wanted to look at some examples. So we said in our last episode that we were going to start giving you some sort of practical use cases to experiment and play around with Copilot to get some more use out of it. So we're just going to switch over here to our Microsoft 365 demo tenant, and we're going to initially just look at OneDrive and how Copilot is built into OneDrive. And there's a few different options here. Now, this will work. Some of the features do work in the File Explorer as well, but you get most of them by going to OneDrive actually in the web.
For now, I'm sure they'll roll out the Explorer over time.
Yeah. We've got an example of an employee training and development policy here. Now you'll see the little Copilot button. If you click on that, you'll see that there's actually 5 different options that you've got. So the first one is you can ask Copilot to instantly create a quick summary of that document. The next one is that you can actually ask it to create an FAQ section. So if you are using this to include as a basis for a PowerPoint presentation or to put in an email or a website, you can ask Copilot to automatically review the document and create some FAQs based on it. You can also ask Copilot a generic question. So if you click on that, it will pop up with a Copilot window, and you'll be able to then ask Copilot a question based on that document as a source. You can create an agent based on the document as well. So that would be just a light agent that uses the document as a knowledge source. And then again, you can ask questions on it and share that agent with your colleagues.
Or something we need to do in the next few weeks.
Yep. And then finally, the one we wanted to look at, which we think is really interesting, is the audio overviews. So if you click on create an audio overview, Copilot will go off. It will spend a couple of minutes just reviewing the document. It creates a transcript and then actually converts that into an audio file that you can then listen to. There are a couple of different options. Once it's created, you can select whether you want it to be a single person just reading the summary of the document, or you can have it in a podcast style where you have two people actually discussing it. And it takes a couple of minutes to run. So we've got an example of one here that we created earlier, and I'm just going to play that now to give you a bit of an example of what it sounds like.
Welcome to our overview of the Employee Training and Development Policy at Company Name. Today, we will examine the key components that shape how this organization approaches employee growth and continuous learning.
Right. This document, developed by the HR and leadership teams, outlines the structure behind
So there we have it. It gives you just a bit of an example of how that sounds, but it could be a really useful tool, partly for accessibility. It'll enable people to documents and files be more accessible to users, but also if you've got very long documents and things have changed or you need summaries of them quickly, you can create an audio overview and listen to it on the go.
I mean, we've been speaking with a few of our clients that we develop software for over the last few weeks about how this ability to create multimedia, whether that's audio or video, take screenshots, whatever it might be, is making it much cheaper to produce more content. And this is just an example of how you can create an audio file. You never would have paid somebody to do that, but now you can do it instantly. It opens up new opportunities, and this is one of these things that we all need to look at is for the opportunity in AI, not just the efficiencies.
Yeah, and Microsoft are actually building this functionality out further. So they're going to introduce more of a live style version where actually it will be an audio overview, but you're able to interrupt that audio overview using your own voice and ask it questions as well about the document that it's reviewing for you.
I think that's going to be really interesting. I have no idea how they've managed to get technology to work for that, but I'm really looking forward to trying that out because I think there's all sorts of different places we could implement that to assist people. I mean, even just from a perspective of HR or other places where people have very complex documents that you might want to just interact with them rather than sit there and read the whole thing. Certainly, we've found that AI is generating a lot more content for us. So actually, this might make it easier to review all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one we just wanted to touch on is a little bit of a time-saving trick. And to do this, essentially, Microsoft have added a keyboard shortcut for Copilot. So Windows C, if you press Windows and the C button, it will open a chat window. Then you can have a quick conversation with Copilot. It saves you having to go all the way into the app. But additionally, on top of that, if you actually hold down Windows and C, you can start a voice chat with Copilot immediately. So if you're in the middle of doing something and you suddenly have a question, rather than having to navigate away from what you're doing or changing screens, you can just hold down that Windows and C button and start a voice conversation with Copilot and ask additional questions.
You just have to enable it in settings is the main thing. So if we switch back over and just show you briefly where you can find that option to turn it on.
So to access this and turn it on, the first thing you need to do is open the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, and you need to make sure that you only have the paid for app and not the consumer version on your device. If you go down to the bottom left, click the three dots and click on settings, and then go to quick view, and you'll be able to follow the instructions to turn that on. You may notice as well that the Hey Copilot functionality is also here now. So that does enable you, if you turn that on, to be able to just say, hey, Copilot at any point and start a voice conversation as well. However, there's no voice recognition or there's no way to change the trigger words. So if you are working in an office environment and multiple people have that turned on, you could say, hey, Copilot, and it will turn on everybody's all at once and start 10 conversations.
So I would say with this, if you have any problems turning it on, it could be that you've got the consumer Copilot app installed, as well as the M365 Copilot app. If you just uninstall the consumer one, the one that's just called Copilot, then go back into those settings, you should be able to turn it on without too much difficulty.
Okay, up next, John, I think is going to talk us through personalisation.
So a lot of people like working with AIs because they can be very flattering and very supportive of all of your decisions, and they think that everything you're doing is amazing. But realistically, apart from making us feel good, that's not always helpful, particularly if you're dealing with strategy or giving it some suggestions. And Copilot has a lot of options available to it for personalizing the output, not just making it more realistic, but also in how it might personalize your language when writing documents. And all of those are built into the Copilot settings. So if we switch over, so this time we're going to go to the settings menu, which is in the top right corner, not the bottom left. And in there, you get your settings and then personalization. Now, if you have the full M365 Copilot, you have more in here than the free one. But what you're going to be looking at is the custom instructions. So this is where you can actually give it some detailed instructions about how you want it to behave when you interact with it.
Yes, so following on from that, I've actually given Copilot some quite detailed instructions. I won't claim that I did it myself. It was some instructions I found on LinkedIn that I've used and put into my Copilot to make it a lot more constructive, not told it not to always agree with me and actually tell me if it thinks I'm doing something wrong or if an idea isn't going to work. And I found those instructions have actually had a really good impact on Copilot and making it more useful for things like strategy and analysis of documents and giving feedback. So I'll copy that prompt and we'll put it in the description so you can copy that out and put it into your Copilot and try it out for yourself.
I think there was one yesterday we looked at and it was quite brutal in its feedback of your idea.
Yeah, yes, it was. Okay, last but by no means least, we're going to look at the Microsoft PowerPoint agent. So to clarify, there is slightly different versions. There's Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel and Word agents that can be accessed from the Copilot 365 app. However, there's also agent modes for Word, Excel and PowerPoint, which are accessed from inside those Office applications. So we're going to look briefly now at the PowerPoint agent and give you a quick run through of how that works. Okay, so here we have our Copilot desktop app. So I'm quickly going to show you how to access the PowerPoint agent. So if you haven't got it already, you will need to go to All Agents and search for PowerPoint. And it will then pop up and you should be able to click open and it will open the PowerPoint agent for you. It is important to note that within your 365, you will need to have both the Frontier turned on and also you will have to have Anthropic enabled before you're able to use these Frontier agents.
So just to clarify, Frontier is Microsoft's testing program. This is basically where they release new ideas before they're released to the general public as part of it. So you'll find it's called PowerPoint Frontier for now, but that'll change just PowerPoint at some point in the future.
Okay, so what I've done is I've just gone and given Copilot a very simple prompt. I've asked it to create a presentation based on the sales report that I've attached, which is also a dummy report. Okay, so we've submitted our prompt to PowerPoint. It's gone away and reviewed the document. And the first thing it does is come back with a few different questions. So it's asking about what the key highlights are. So I'm going to select one of the answers here, who the target audience is. So we'll go for the board of directors on this occasion. What sort of length we want. We'll go for a short one here. I would like whether it's a mix of visuals or more text. So we'll go for a balance on this one. And then finally, you're able to select a theme. So let's go for tabloid. And then we're going to hit let's go, and it's going to go off and start creating the PowerPoint. Now, usually Copilot will start by planning out the various slides and then adding the content in terms of the text and images and creating those slides and putting it all together. So obviously we've just sped up that process there. It usually, depending on the length of presentation that you select, it can take between 5 and 10 minutes for Copilot to actually generate the full presentation. But as we can see here, it has reviewed that sales report that I've given it, and it's pulled out some key information. It's even created some graphs and included some text as well. And it's created a really nice, visually impressive presentation. So from there, once you're done, you can then actually click the Open in PowerPoint button. That will then take your presentation, put it into PowerPoint, and you can continue to edit and make any tweaks that you need to.
Okay, well, that's all we're going to cover today. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back again next week with some more ideas and try and show you how to put this in practice. If you are in the UK, in the Southeast area, we are running a Copilot training event on the 11th of February, where James and I will be there to try and show people with a bit of hands-on experience how they can get more out of Copilot and look for those efficiencies and opportunities.
Absolutely.
For now, thank you very much.
See you next time.